Hey everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Yak with MAC. Are you a persuader? Leaders, what are some ways that you can prevent the great resignation from landing at your doorstep? We will talk about it.
Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. This is another edition of the Yak with Mac. And I'm riding solo today. It's been a minute since we spoke. I hope you're enjoying and getting a lot out of the guests that we've worked hard to provide for you. What great guests I've had in these last couple of months, whether it was Irma or Jennifer, and all of the great advice that they have given you. Ronke was fantastic as well. I could just go on and on. I have got some phenomenal guests lined up, but we're kind of going to be the next couple of weeks or so. So in the meantime, I've got just a tremendous subject that I wanted to talk to you about. And I have to say, this that I'm talking to you about today is inspired by an article that I read on the Harvard Business Review. So some of it is going to be in my own words, but some of it is going to be out of that article. So leaders, let me ask you this question. We know that we are still kind of smack dab, maybe in the middle of the Great Resignation. We know that the work culture is changing right before our eyes, right? What do we do about that? Well, one of the things I would like to talk to you about today, and I'll ask you this question: are you a persuader? Can you get people to do what you'd like them to do without you even asking them to do it? Going to give some hints and tips on language to use, and persuader and influencer just a little bit different. I've spent the last couple of years with you talking about you being a great influencer, and being a great persuader is very, very close, but there's some very subtle differences to being a persuader. See, when you're a persuader, you have to do what I like to call the workaround. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. I know you've heard me say that before. I'm not saying that, you say things that you don't mean. I don't want you to ever do that. But the workaround takes a lot of energy, and that is when you are really getting to know your people and figure out some really good words to use, words to avoid as well, but more words to use and language to use that's going to get them to really take their game to different heights. Here's the thing, great resignation or not, I don't have to tell you guys this that are running a store. I don't have to tell you guys that are in a call center this. I don't have to tell you guys that are in a corporate team this. You still got to get results. And not just good results, you still got to get great results. So how do you do that in the midst of this total changing work culture and work environment? Okay, so the workaround, being a persuader, you want to coach totally for agreement. As you are coaching, you want to have an end game in mind, and you want to always be coaching for agreement. So I know this is going to sound a little bit odd, but I think to a lot of you it won't. Now more than ever, you've got to really work hard to keep employees happy. I know that's probably not your goal, man, but these days you want to keep everyone as happy as possible while still getting the job done and while still getting phenomenal, phenomenal results. So let me start to give you 4 different tips. Now, these come out of the Harvard Business Review, and they resonated with me so much, and I know they're going to resonate with you. So the first thing that you have to know before I get to the 4 is that you always have to check your tone. Your tone of voice means a lot more these days than it did 4, 5, 6 years ago. You've really got to check your tone. And so remember, I've talked about having that alert circle, right? And people that you trust that are going to tell you that, hey, dude, hey, young lady, your tone is just a little bit off. Maybe try this tone just a little bit. And purposefully, my tone is I'm always aware of it, especially when I'm doing a podcast, because I want you to listen. I want you to pick up what I'm putting down, right? And I know if I have a tone that points fingers right at you and says, you must do this, you're probably going to turn me off in 5 minutes or less. But if I have a tone that tells you, and this is the truth, right, that I'm right there with you, that I walked in your shoes for a long, long time, that it took me a while to learn this, right? That I've got to have a great receptive tone for anybody that I'm speaking to that I want to influence, impact, but I want to persuade. Okay, let's get specific now. Hedge your words. Really think about things that you're saying. So, along with that receptive tone, if you say things like, I think that this may be possible, and really emphasize and use a little voice inflection when you say, I think that this may be possible. Now you're starting to draw your person in. This might. Hey, this might work. What do you think? This might work. And if you also say, well, some people might. Now, I got to tell you, I'm not crazy about that one, but it does work in some instances because I've said that before. That, hey, some people, Kenny? Wait a minute. And if the person is defensive, right? And now you might have to say, well, just some people, I'm hearing this. I hate that. I always hate when that's done to me. That if somebody says, yeah, I'm hearing this, where are you hearing this from? So I might want to stay away from that one. It could work for some leaders, but the two main ones that I love are I think and this might, and you kind of say it like that. Now you're in persuasion mode, and now you've probably got that person's attention. Next hint is emphasize agreement. You've got to walk away with some agreement. And I know as a leader, there's a lot of times where you have the end game in mind, and I think that's okay. But also, you've got to think about, well, what if the end game isn't the same that this person wants? Can I compromise and have some sort of agreement? And in most cases, you absolutely can. So think about this. Hey, I think that we both want to get this resolved. Who's going to argue with that, right? Hey, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Who's going to argue with that? The next question may be, well, what is it that you don't agree with? And be ready to answer that. And then, hey, you know what? We are both concerned about this. So now you've got the person that you were coaching or trying to persuade on your side, right? Because there's agreement. Yeah, we're both concerned about this. I think we both want this to go well. I think we both want your employment here to continue. And I think we both want you to just be crazy successful here. Who's going to argue with that? Now you're persuading, right? All right. Third one, and this probably comes natural to a lot of you, and that's acknowledge other perspectives. Acknowledge their perspective and use words a lot that show that you acknowledge it. I don't have to tell you probably about the body language of nodding and things like that. But hey, I understand that. I see your point. And what I think you're saying is, and you know what? You and I are saying the same thing. So if you're using words like that and sentences like that, you're acknowledging their perspective. Now you've got them back on your side. You're persuading them to come over to your side. All right, last one. Reframe in positive terms. So if it's something that might be an area of opportunity, may sound a little bit negative, you may have to reframe it in some positive terms. So think about saying things like, I think it's great when, and I really appreciate it when you do this. It would be wonderful if this happened. So you're reframing and putting some really positive words like wonderful and appreciate. Now you're in persuasion mode now, and there's not going to be any turning back from that. Here's the last thing that I wrote down, and this is just me. Leaders, there are so many things that you have to do today to hold on to your great people. One of the things that I would put at the top, and I know I put at the top for me as I'm still working hard to lead my team, one of the things that I would put at the top for me are these three words: give and take. To persuade people, it takes that. So the days of the stubborn leader that is just going to be my way or the highway, Those should have been long gone a long time ago. But I have to tell you, with all of the things swirling around, and I'm going to have some great guests that are going to give a little bit more insight to the Great Resignation over these next few weeks. But to really help prevent that from stopping right at your door, there's got to be some give and take. And listen, we have standards as a company that everyone has to meet, and we want to exceed those, right? But there are some things that you can give and take. There's some things that are non-negotiables. Listen, I would never give and take on you got to show up for work at the time that you're scheduled for work, right? And a little bit before that. You can give and take on the schedule and how someone may want to work afternoons or closing shifts instead of opening or nights instead of days. That's fine. If you can work that out, work it out. But that's the give and take that you can do. You can't give and take on, hey, you're supposed to clock in at 3, you clocked in at 3:30. Or, hey, your quota is 10 and you only brought in 5. We need to dig into that as to why. That could be some give and take there. So never sacrifice the standards. That's not what I'm saying. But you can have some give and take. So let me recap those. Hedge your words. Say things like, I think, this might. Some people, you can use that if you like. Emphasize agreement. I think we both want this. We both want this to work. Acknowledge other perspectives. Hey, yeah, I get that. I understand that. And reframe in positive terms. Hey, I think it's great win, and it would be wonderful if this happened. Okay, leaders, a lot more to come. Got some terrific leaders that are lined up over these next several weeks to really give their perspective and advice so that you can be a phenomenal influencer all throughout your leadership career. All right, gonna leave it right there. For now, this is Kenny. This has been the Yak with Mac. We will talk to you real soon.